Hi guys, welcome to the first part one of 8 of the Typical Branding Pitfall series. I'm Vanette, principal of Comet Chaser here. So, as I kind of glazed over in our intro video of the series, there are 8 different typical branding pitfalls that I see over and over again when I work with brands. And it does not matter if you're B2B or B2C, it is all under the same umbrella, regardless of category. So these are the things I see over and over and over again. So the first one we're going to deep dive into today is the brand is functional. It presents as functional and there's no inspired why behind the brand. And like I alluded to in the intro video, this is such a biggie, but it's the easiest thing to fix once you understand the basics and the foundations of branding. So I'm just going to go through that with you guys today. So a brand is not a product or service. Your product service is your product or service. A product on service on its own is not a brand. So here's a quote from Philip Kotela. Philip Kotela, I have a hard time doing last names every once in a while. He's a marketing author, consultant, and professor at the Kellogg School of Management. And he says that the art of marketing is the art of brand building. If you're not a brand, you're a commodity, then the price is everything and the low cost producer is the only winner. This is just a fancy way of saying that when we only talk and message functionality, then the lowest price wins, right? Because no one is ever gonna be like, my product or service is okay. They're always gonna be like, my product service is the very best. Buy my product service. No one's gonna be like, it's second best, right? So like if everything is the best and everything is the same in quality, then I'm going to buy the lowest priced product service, right? So then it just becomes a price war. Pretty much like at the end of the day, when you're only focused on messaging functionality, you compete on price, and it's all about pricing and it's all about sales. And that's no good for anyone on the brand side of things. Brands are actually an outward expression of emotion. So this is like the very basics of branding foundation that most people are unaware about. So this is like one of my favorite examples. This is Coca-Cola, and Coca-Cola is just brown fizzy sugar water. But there's Coca-Cola people and there's Pepsi people for a reason, right? And then we can talk all day about blind taste testing and how one is different than the other and all that kind of stuff. But really it's because there is a emotional aspiration behind Coca-Cola that makes it such a beautiful brand and such a timeless brand. And sometimes the strategy, it's like the simpler, the better, right? This timeless human truth that Coca-Cola hangs its hat on is happiness. Who doesn't want to be happy? Who doesn't aspire to be happy? And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to hang your hat on because it transcends culture, it transcends languages, it transcends time, right? It flexes and it grows with us, which is a beautiful strategy, right? So this is product service is just smart tech. But like there was smart technology, there were Walkmans, there were Dells before Apple ever came on the scene, but they broke through the mode, right? Because like they are all about being creative rebel. It's all about thinking different. That's why every single creative business, right? All the agencies of the world, like we all have MacBooks. And we kind of laugh at the people that do not, right? Because that means you're not creative. And that's very much the brand behind Apple. Last but not least, this is Impossible Burger, right? This is a plant-based meat substitute. We all know about it. And it's not like plant-based meat substitutes. Products have not existed before, right? The Boca Burgers existed since the 80s, but no one really broke through because they were all talking about functionality, right? This brand is all about meaty deliciousness. Like, the delicious juiciness of eating meat is what they're hanging their hat on with the brand. So I also bring up this example because sustainability, clean, those are all functional reasons to believe. And when we're creating a category, when we're leading the clean movement, 5 to 10 years ago, then we needed to talk about functionality as well. And it almost comes equal to talking about emotion, aspiration, but especially when you're entering a category that's very saturated about clean or sustainability or regenerative or whatever it is, it's still emotional aspiration first, right? All birds. It's all about comfort and softness. It just happens to be sustainable, just happens to be made out of a material that's really good for the earth. So this is the golden circle. It is coined by Simon Sinek. If you have not, his TED Talk is become very, very famous. I'm going to talk you through this. Feel free to check his TED Talk out yourself as well. So he talks about how there's 3 layers, right? What, how, why. And most people talk outside in because we know what we do. Like most of the world knows like what we do. We may know how we do and how we do it differently, but most people don't know why they do what they do, right? Branding is very, very subconscious, and it's all about like these subconscious emotional aspirations. So if Apple were to talk outside in, they would be like, what do we make? We make great computers. How do we do it? They are beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. Want to buy one? And you kind of go, okay, yeah, maybe not. Like, let me just shop around and see what my options are, right? It's not very compelling when we talk outside in. What Apple actually does is to talk inside out. Everything starts with the why, which is what I'm calling the inspired why. And the inspired why umbrellas and blankets everything, right? So Apple's why. Everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking different. How do we do this? The how, by making products that are beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. We just happen to make computers. Want to buy one? The what is pretty much irrelevant, right? And then if you notice, the how and the what is exactly the same messaging as before, but it feels completely different when you umbrella it under this inspired why, right? And like I was kind of saying before, it doesn't matter what we're selling, right? Because I want to think different. I want to challenge the status quo. And that's what I aspire to be. 99.9% of people aspire to be this, right? Whether or not they're an Apple consumer or not. So, and then this lets you expand into all these different things as long it's about challenging the status quo, paying off Creative Rebel, or thinking differently, right? That's why they have TVs, they have watches, they have all sorts of different things now, not just computers. Simon Sinek again, right? So just to make this an official quote, the goal is not just to sell people who have what you have. The goal is to sell people who believe what you believe, right? It's not about functionality. It's the why. It's the rallying. It's the emotional aspiration. It's the community that you and the aspirational traits that you want to put upon yourself as a consumer or customer engaging with this brand. Slightly more sinister quote that I kind of love to bring to shake things up. This is about, very famous here, about Elizabeth Holmes. So in the documentary about her company, the inventor out for blood in Silicon Valley, the reality is that data just doesn't sit in our minds like stories do. It's almost like the glue that takes all of the data, and even more important, stories have emotion that data doesn't. Emotions get people to do all kinds of things, good and bad, right? It's all about emotion here. That's what branding really is all about. So at the end of the day, if you take nothing away from this, what belief are you selling and why should I care, right? Like, why should I, as a customer or consumer that you are going after, why should I care about you? What belief am I buying into when I engage with your brand? So I've, been around the block and working on branding for a long, long time. I've identified about 7 inspired whys here. So I'm going to go through each of them with you guys now and give you some examples. So the first one is a bold vision for the future, right? So it'll be like Tesla that wants to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy, or Impossible, right? Where their goal and their bold vision is they want to create a future generation where they're like, what? Mom and dad, like you used to eat meat? Like that's so weird, right? They want to create a future generation that's confused that we used to eat meat, right? So when we are going after this inspired why territory, it needs to be big. Like it needs to be a big, bold vision. It can't just be like, I created this because I couldn't find anything, which is something we hear over and over again from founders, right? It's like, I created this because I couldn't find a product or service that was right for me, my situation. That's nice, but that's not big and bold enough for this territory here. Second, inspired why is writing an injustice, right? Like Osco Insurance, right? Insurance shouldn't be this complicated. Health insurance made easy, right? Something that's like easy to understand, more personable, more accessible in its language. Warby Parker, glasses shouldn't cost this much, designer glasses. And also like, buying glasses and trying them in stores, not a great experience. Like they like very much revolutionize the buying experience for glasses with home try-ons. Fenty Beauty, right? Like we should have inclusive shades. And like once we kind of write that injustice, like if you're going to go here, it needs to be challenging the category, right? Like now if you create an inclusive shades, like it's become an expectation, it's become table stakes. So you're no longer writing injustice. Fenty's already done that for us here. You can disrupt the status quo, right? So this like star face here is like, let's, and like, instead of concealing and hiding your pimples, let's put a cute little sticker on it and kind of embrace acne in a way, right? Like Hims, we're talking about erectile dysfunction. We're talking about like men's personal health that like usually is not talked about. BIGGIE, right? The first razor brand to ever actually show hair being shaved, right? Like before, like you would see these razor commercials and they're shaving a perfectly alrighty smooth limb. They're also showing, body hair in places that we don't usually see them, like on our toes, in our armpits, on our like hands, and for example. And they also give you permission to like, however, whenever, if ever, if you choose to shave, right? It's like this is disrupting the status quo and making like a big, big splash here. So that's our third one, I believe. Fourth is a universal human motivation. So kind of what I talked about with Coca-Cola before, right? The simpler, the better. Happiness. Budweiser is freedom. Ole Henriksen, right? It's like the founder is all about optimism. So we bake that into the brand here. Aspirational trait, right? Like herbivore is all about like that mystic woo, like I'm a crystal girl, like I'm like a little bit witchy, and that's like been baked into their like skincare brand and their beauty brand, right? Sunbum is that aspirational surfer lifestyle, and everything pays that off from their like logo to their verbiage to the smells and the ingredients that are in their products, right? Like everything pays off that aspirational surfer lifestyle. Right. So also like polished choice, smart and sensible, 100% effective, zero fluff. Right. It's like it's about the type A person that's like smart, no nonsense. I don't need anything more than that. That's also an aspirational tribe trait. This one, homage to the past, right? It's like Lilabo here, like feels like old world apothecary. Like I'm handpicking these like artisanal wild sown ingredients, and then like I'm taking them and like I'm putting them in Pestor Immortal, right? Like that's very much the past nostalgia they're bringing up. Tata Harper, right? It's like the beauties of and the traditions of the rituals of the geishas, right? Shanola, right? It's all about like industrial Detroit. And you don't have to actually be an old brand to play in this territory, as long as you have a, a very focused purpose or, certain different like things, reasons to believe to back up why we're doing what we're doing. Shinola, for example, was established in 2011, right? Like it definitely does not look like a brand from 2011. It looks much, much older than that. And then last but not least is homage to a place, right? Grey juice is like all about like the wheats from France, So de Janeiro, it's like about Brazil and the beach culture there, like Brazilian bum bum cream. Fiji, right? It's like this like natural artisanal water from the mountains of Fiji. And that's like where I'm transporting you to a place is our last inspired why that I will talk you through today. Right. So just to recap, we have 7 that I've identified over the years. The first one is bold vision for the future. Second, writing injustice. Third, destruction of the status quo. Fourth, human motivation. Fifth, aspirational tribe traits. Sixth, homage to the past. And seventh, homage to a place, right? Transporting me to a place. So how do we like find what my inspired why might be for your brand? So the way I do this is I go through this process, right? And I look at your brand, like what brand truths are there, like either from your products or your founder story, your brand equities, if you a brand that's been around for a long time. It's also like the emotional mindset that you have in consumers' minds, right? Like it's really what people think about you. So there might be a lot in there that we can play with. I also look at people. So like who are your consumers, who are your customers, who are your stakeholders? When we're looking at B2B brands, especially, we're also looking at the employees, like who is working there, right? Like Patagonia is a beautiful brand, both from a B2C perspective, but a B2B perspective. When I apply to work at Patagonia, I'm attracting a certain type of employee. So especially as we're moving into a world where we don't want to work as much, or we're demanding work-life balance, and we're becoming more and more picky in the workforce, right? Like we need to think about the employees we're attracting as well. So they're a stakeholder that we forget a lot about a lot of times. And then I also look at context. So the category, like who are we competing against? Who are the people on my kill list? Who are we stealing share from? And then also in context is culture, right? It's like, is society ready for this? So for example, right, like in the States, like marijuana, CBD, society was not ready for that 10 years ago. And now it's all over the place, right? So even if we create a beautiful strategy and a beautiful brand and we believe in it and it all makes sense, but if it's not right in the moment of introducing it in time, then it's not going to work out, right? So like it's not a linear process, what I do here, but I definitely do all my due diligence and looking at brand, people, and context. From there, I like to say that I surface cards of like what we have to work with, and that's like lay that all out on the table. So from like looking in your brand, right, like there might be a great founder's trait or a founder story. There's some brands where it's very much like ooh, I'm blinking now, but like it's very much like it's all about the founder and who I want aspire to be that founder, right? So there's a source like, okay, like maybe there's a really cool ingredient story that we've never talked about, or like where it's from, that ingredient, the sensorial experience of the product or the service, right? Like maybe it's an experience that we haven't offered before. From the people category, right? Like the aspirational consumer, like what do I aspire to be? Maybe there's a tribe trait in there. Maybe there's unmet need from a product or service perspective. And then in context, like, what are the category conventions? Is everyone kind of doing the same thing over and over again? And is there something that we can break and flip the table in a meaningful, awesome, cool way, right? And then these cards, what I like to do is I like to lay them all out, not literally, but like in front of me, and I go, okay, like, what is the strongest card to kind of anchor the brand in, right? Because another thing I like to say is you want to throw one tennis ball, one North Star, because if I throw, 5 different tennis balls at you, you're like, oh my God, so many different tennis balls, and you're not going to catch any of them because we're the only people that see the brand in its entirety, right? You have to think about consumers and your customers see like, 2 seconds of the brand here and 2 seconds of the brand there, and like they're not seeing it in front of them in its entirety. So if you throw like 5 different tennis balls and 5 different messaging points, they'll be like, I'm so confused. I don't know what your brand is, and it's not going to stand for anything in their minds and therefore not be sticky. So you want to throw that one tennis ball over and over again. And I'm bringing this up because what you want to do is you want to find kind of your lead card, right? Is it the aspirational consumer traits and then everything else, that I also have under the brand, like the founder, the service, the experience, the unmet need, or whatever it is, all kind of ladders into that. So it is a little bit of science and magic and feeling when we do brand strategy here. Once you kind of figure out what your lead card is and what you want to be your North Star and your kind of lead tennis ball, right? This loosely ties to our 7 inspired whys, right? Like if your lead card is a founder trait or like a founder vision, it could be a bold vision for the future, right? If it's an unmet need, for example, that we're fighting, then or we're meeting, then we're like writing an injustice. That could very much be an inspired why category. This is not an exact science, right? This is not exact math here, but this is like more or less, the principles that I want to talk to you guys about today. So that's what I have for you guys today for our functional no inspired why, first of the 8 of our typical branding pitfall series. Next time around, so like in a week or two, if you are interested, I'm going to deep dive in the indistinct everyone persona and talk more about that. Again, feel free to DM me, message me directly, or comment on the post here if you have any questions or if you want me to explore a different branding topic. But very excited, and hopefully you guys all enjoyed. See you guys next time. Bye.